Good morning, Professor Shane D. Good to be here. Thanks for coming out to see my ministry project. This is my ministry project video. I'm just gonna kind of just make a little video and just kind of spark note, kind of recap of this year, or my ministry project for this semester. So my project was on the ministry project options. There's small group leader under spiritual formation, and it's under the category of a junior senior ministry project. I am technically at the end of my junior year. So that's why it was perfect. Obviously, you know what a D group is, and it is a small group on steroids, as we like to say. And I have had an amazing time, amazing experience, and I want to share with you basically what my strategy was heading into the year, how it went, and then also basically the things that I did well, didn't do well, and what I'm going to try to change moving forward, because I will still be leading the group in this second semester. So to start, D group, you know all about D groups, but I'll still say I'll talk about them anyway. So D groups are an aspect of Thrive School, a discipleship. They're discipleship groups, really focused on discipling, on pushing one another to look more like Christ. And obviously I've been a part of multiple D groups. I've been a part of Devon's D group first and second year, but then I was a part of the leaders D group this last year. So I got to see how all of them led, which kind of built up my strategy for leading into this year from those experiences. So my strategy heading into the group for this first semester was, I hear so much advice for the first 2 to 3 months to emphasize and focus on bonding, which is something that I didn't feel super confident in. But I was like, okay, bonding is huge these first few months for sure. We need to have some awesome memories and bonding experiences, which I do feel like we did a great job of, because our first D group, we kicked it off with an escape room and then got dinner, and then that really set the culture of camaraderie. And 3 of the guys lived together in a house, so they were already super bonded all the time, hanging out with one another. So I do think that kind of expedited the process, which was great. The other focus I wanted to focus on was healing, because I feel like people come with so much baggage, and a lot of that comes out the first 3 to 4 months. And so I wanted there to be an emphasis on healing, which really the best practice for that I found was the ungodly beliefs. That's a great way to get the mess out there and realize what we need to pray for healing for. Another thing was focusing on our imperfections, realizing how imperfect we are. I didn't want there to be like one guy or 2 guys who clearly they have a ton of things wrong with them and we just talk about them the whole time. So I really wanted to make sure that everyone in this first half was clear that they are not perfect and got called out on stuff and whatnot, which again, I didn't have to force too much. I did a little bit, and that was fun. But they all kind of called each other out, and there was not a moment, or there wasn't a person in the group who didn't get called out on something, even myself, which is awesome. From there, I wanted to emphasize personal devotion time, which honestly, most of them did not do well in at all, but that's why we're emphasizing it. And hopefully the second half, pushing them like they have to, for sure, need to be connecting with God every single day in an intentional manner, whatever that looks like. And then the last thing that I wanted to emphasize, this is something that Devon does really well, is he's really good at pushing accountability partners to be there for one another. Because as the leader, they shouldn't become dependent on me, but if they can become more dependent on their peers as well as mentors and whatnot, that'd be huge. So I made sure that accountability partners were really intentional, which 2 of them were. One struggled a little bit more. But yeah, all in all, those were the things I wanted to emphasize: bonding, healing, imperfections, devotion time with God, and accountability partners. And the way that I did that, mostly, I think the most practical thing I thought of was probably the second or third D group. I got a whiteboard, and we together brainstormed what we want our values to be. And so I collected those on the whiteboard, and we decided together what our creeds or our doctrine for the D group would be. And from that, I brought that to D group every single Monday and made a different person read off the doctrines of our group, read off the values and expectations for our group to really set the tone. And so that whiteboard just stood as this platform. There were things on it like vulnerability and privacy and honesty, things like that, that just really laid a nice foundation for our group, which I thought that was awesome. Also, I met with their accountability groups, met with them every couple weeks. So I'd meet, there was still the 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 dynamic going on throughout, which I wish I did a little bit more. Overall, what went well and what could have gone better, I think what went well was they caught the vision of the group through the values and expectations. They really hopped right on board, and they're like, let's do this thing. Let's be bought in. the second thing was they loved each other and they wanted to hang out a ton. So they hung out a ton outside of group without me having to say anything. And then the third thing was everybody had to grow and step up in some way. Again, everyone got called out, and so everyone had to grow and work on themselves or allow God to work on them, which was really cool. What could have gone better was I could have laid down my authority earlier, more as a leader. I think I started off more as a friend, and I think they were less clear on my authority because first of all, I'm younger, so I do think it's important that I do establish more of that. But I don't think until later, once they kind of saw my intellect, or I guess heard more about what I've been a part of, what I've done, I think they grew more of a respect, because then there was a clear shift of like, whoa, like Dax, you know what's going on here. You have wisdom. You have the wisdom, or the last word in a sense. And so that was kind of fun to watch, but I didn't really force that. I don't know how I could have gotten that for earlier, but whatever. Another thing is, maybe this would be the answer to that. I could have hung out with them more in their other environments, because we had intentional D group things, but I should have just honestly just hung out with them randomly on coffee, or if I'm going to the mall, I should have just picked one of them up and done more like just spontaneous random hang type things. And then I also could have been more honest, which this one's debatable. I don't know if I wanted to be more honest, because I could have called way more things out and been way more real, but the opportunity for that is in this second semester, so I will be sure to attack that. All in all, summary, I enjoyed it a ton, and I would definitely do it again. I was super blessed that they all loved each other, and they're very common in their personalities, and so they're very agreeable, which is really cool. The biggest thing I learned was probably that it's super effective to be able to let them dialogue and debate and whatnot, and then I come in with the final word and observations from them, or make sure that we're staying biblical. It was sort of fun to sit back, watch them dialogue, do their thing, and then for me to come in and get the last word and kind of summarize everything. And so I felt like I was more of a host, which was super fun. And that's another way that they don't become all too dependent on me, and I'm constantly emphasizing that, like, no matter what, you should always be a part of a group, but also you should also be able to go to the Bible and go to God. That's ultimately where we're getting this truth from, so you might as well go to the direct source every single day. And other than that, I think one thing that I'm really going to focus on in this next season, first of all, I'm going to be more honest, but what needs to counter that is I need to be more affirmative and encouraging in the growth that I've seen, because I do think that some really real things are going to come up for a lot of them in the second half, and so I need to be able to make sure that they know that I'm on their side and encouraging them, and I'm not naturally super encouraging, so I need to focus on that if we're going to be more honest, and it's going to be hard. But all in all, that was my ministry project this last semester, last 4 to 5 months of leading a D group. Thank you, Professor Davidson.